And so our next speaker is a teacher working with our children, 3rd and 4th and 5th graders at Greater Atlanta Christian School. Please welcome up James A. Lee.
Hello everyone, thank you. Hey, I'm James Lee, and I'm a 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teacher at Greater Atlanta Christian School, and I teach environmental learning. And it's a new program that we started this year. We built a big greenhouse. We have an aquaponics system that I'm supposed to put together this week. We'll see how that goes. We have vermiculture going on. We have a chicken coop. We have a fish pond. And all this was on a parking lot last year that we had. And some of the teachers weren't so happy about getting rid of a parking lot. But we did it anyways. And we talked, they actually flew me in for consulting before I was hired. And I said, okay, you know, more than just having a cool school garden, let's have a food forest where kids can actually walk inside and see the interactions of the ecosystems and the whole world and what that should look like and how God created, the systems that God created things to grow in. Instead of just having some, you know, we have raised beds too and we have a greenhouse, but for kids to really open their eyes, they have to see it all happening, the system of sustainability, the full cycle of things going on. And so we're starting all this. We have a green roof shed, and my teaching philosophy is for students. I want to inspire students to admire. So that's like kind of my catchphrase, inspire to admire, because you know, we're a lot older, we can kind of process and see, you know, a lot of the issues and the problems that are going on, and we can respond to those things. But as children, sometimes, you know, if we talk too much about the negatives, they can get kind of bogged down and feel, you know, hopeless. But what I want them to do is to be inspired to see the beauty that's in creation, the beauty that's all around us, and the amazing systems and the resilience that nature has, and the forests that the forests have, and the crazy qualities of the different organisms in our world today. I spent 6 months in Africa, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I was snorkeling in the ocean and just seeing the vibrant colors. Like, how in the world do these fish have these bright blue and bright yellow and bright pink? It's amazing. And so, yeah, so I just want, you know, as students kind of learn this, they're getting, you know, it's the first year, so it takes some time because they can't just see it at school, right? They got to see it in their homes. And, you know, I talk to some of these parents and they say, yeah, you know, these kids, they won't eat anything. They won't eat vegetables, and I have to cook 5 different meals for my family because, you know, so-and-so doesn't like this and so-and-so doesn't like this. And you know, the answer is, you got to eat it. You know, they have to watch you eating these things. You can't tell your kids to eat vegetables when you don't eat vegetables. You know, they don't want that. You know, they want to do what you're doing. And so it's been a really fun adventure, just kind of seeing how parents' minds their wheels start to turn, and the kids start to open their eyes, and they start, you know, and what I tell my students is, you gotta slow down and notice what's going on. Slow down and capture what's actually happening. You know, we don't just press a button and a t-shirt pops out. This was grown in the ground, right? And we had silkworms, and I was growing silkworms for them to see, and like, this is where our silk comes from. Like when we eat chocolate, I have a cacao tree in my greenhouse. Like, this is where chocolate comes from. We don't just push a button and it doesn't just come out. It grows on this tree, and they're like, whoa, oh my gosh. And anyways, I get really excited about teaching about this stuff because I didn't have this as a kid. I grew up with a single father, and he works 70 hours a week. And so I thought food came out of a box or a brown paper bag. Like, I thought, you know, you tell them what you want and you drive around and they give it to you. That's where food comes from, you know. And I had no idea. I spent most of my childhood sitting in my living room playing computer games. And so I had no concept for what food was, what nature had, what the environment was about. I had no concept, no grid for anything. And it wasn't, I became a Christian when I was in 9th grade, and I started asking God, what should I do with my life? I know I wanted to do something with international development, but I had no idea anything about what to do. And so God said, I want you to pursue agriculture. And I said, say what? I don't know what that is. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to University of Georgia. Let me ask, you know, some advisors, talk to them, what should I study? And they said horticulture. I was like, what's that? Horticulture? I never heard of that before. Okay, let me try that out. And so I studied horticulture. I spent 3 months in Mexico working there, spent 6 weeks working in an orphanage in Uganda. I spent a summer, a season working in Maine on a farm, and I spent a year working on an organic farm in Athens. And then I moved down to South Florida and worked on a tropical farm for a Christian nonprofit down there that also had offices around the world doing international development with small-scale farmers trying to find sustainable and innovative solutions to a lot of the hunger and agricultural issues that are going on in East Africa. And so when I was working with them, I spent 6 months in Tanzania, traveled to Burundi, to Kenya, to Thailand, and what I saw was that environmental sustainability is a life or death issue today. That it's a life or death issue right now. You know, we think about it, I just watched Tomorrowland, the Disney movie about, the world's ending, and so much of environmental sustainability, we paint a picture like it's this impending doom that's going to happen in our future. But it's actually affecting lives directly today. It's hard to see that when we compartmentalize all of our lives, and when I have a mental issue, I go to a mental doctor, and when I have a body issue, I go to a body doctor, and when I have a food problem, I go to a nutritionist, and when I want to learn something, I go to the school. But actually, we're holistic, right? We're people that everything affects everything. Everything's connected, interconnected inside of us, and interconnected to the things around us. And it's hard to see that here because we don't see our pollution factories so much anymore, because what do we do with those? We move those overseas, right? And so when I was driving through the hillsides of Burundi, I saw erosion literally destroying people's homes and their mountainsides. I saw, walking through Thailand, I saw people's floods happening and people's homes and fields destroyed because of unpredictable and extreme weather that's never been happening before, right? Not this frequently. I saw trash littered all over cities and people getting their piles of trash and burning them into the smoke, and people coughing. And I saw children walking for miles just to get a bucket of water every day for their family. And so it's really easy for me to see that environmental sustainability is not something that we're talking about the future. Oh, we got to protect for the future. It's actually happening today, and people are losing their lives as we speak because of the things that we're involved in today, the activities that our society demands, because of the needs and the wants, the needs that we think that we need. And people all around the world are suffering because of that. And that's, really become my heartbeat, is to show, and talking at my school too, showing parents like, hey, the things that we buy, I love what they're talking about, vote with our dollar, because the things we buy directly affect people all around the world. When I see a shirt on sale for $5 at a store, my mind should literally go, I hope that everyone's mind jumps to, was this made in a sweatshop? Yeah. Was this made by slavery? Yeah. When we drink coffee and I go drive through Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's and I say, I want $1 coffee, I don't want to spend $3 on coffee. But that coffee was farmed, not in America, that coffee was farmed by poor farmers, small-scale farmers that make less than $2 a day. 70% of our chocolate grows in West Africa, and 90% of those are farmed by children. Only 15% of those children receive any wage at all, which is probably not even a fair wage. And so much of these goods and these products that we think that we need and we love, it's affecting people all around the world. It's not just something that we just do. It's not something that I just went to the store and bought a Hershey's bar. No, Hershey's says, oh, by 2020 we'll stop using child slavery. It's 2015 right now. That's 5 more years of children, right? There's this story in the Bible that talks about these crowds were following Jesus to this remote area, and he was speaking and teaching to them, and it was getting kind of late, so he said, he told his disciples, hey, we need to feed these people, so why don't you guys get some food for them? And they were like, how are we going to feed these people? There's 5,000 people here, we have no money and no food, and there's nowhere even to buy food around here. And so Jesus says, hey, why don't you go and figure out how much food we have, go talk to people and see who has food. And so they go and they come back and they bring this boy and says, okay, this boy has 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And so Jesus takes the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish and he breaks them and gives thanks, and then he passes it around. And enough people around, everybody had more than enough to eat, and they had leftovers. And I love that story because it's crazy to me that out of 5,000 people, there was only one boy who had the sense to pack a lunch, right? Like, I know there was more food out there than that one little boy had, but nobody thought that what they had could make a difference, right? They saw the crowds, they said, I've got 2 pieces of bread, what is that going to do? I'll just keep quiet. But that boy, he brought his 5 loaves and his 2 fish, he was faithful and he brought it and said, hey, I have this. And there was more than enough. And in our society today, we've lost the beauty of lots of people doing little things. You know, we want to be the opening speaker. We want to be the keynote guy. We want to have this big organization, and we've lost the glory of doing small things, but doing it together, right? There's this African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And so, you know, my loaves and my fish, you know, what I'm bringing is I'm teaching these students, and I'm trying to promote to the Christian church, like, hey, we actually say we believe that God made this earth. Well, we should probably take care of it, right? And so that's my loaves and my fish, and today I'm asking you, what's your loaves and what's your fish? What do you have to share, and what do you have to offer, and what do you have to bring people together with? Thank you.